Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Half the Race Gone. My name is DirtenDK. I'm here with the good old Traels666. We're here for the second round of the second race, or the second race of the second round of the Nukeshot Endurance Series from Maggiore once again. And this time it's the AM field in the LMP cars. It is the pro field in the GTs. And judging from the qualifying results, we're in for a heck of a battle here today with the three quickest GT cars all beating the lap record from last year. I think actually even more of the... I think it almost the entire GT field today beating the previous lap record.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it was incredible how much pace was picked up, and it was a very interesting qualifying. Obviously, we usually don't show you the qualifying because of the format, the way that we do things here at the NES, but it was very interesting, and we saw a lot of cars that had some very interesting pace, especially in the GT3 field. So it's gonna get hairy here, I think.
Indeed it is. So let's get him underway for the warm-up lap. Just trying to get the sound off of the stream. So let's get him. There we go. So we've got the cars off rolling nicely and easily, and only 3 LMP in the AM class on the grid today, and it is Nilsson taking pole position yet again, this time in front of Off Apple and Ninja Karma in P3 lining out that grid. So it really looks to be a good result, no matter what, for the race like airplanes, the Condor Racing boys.
Looks like a definite placing of both cars on the podium, providing they manage to finish the race. So that's good to see. They've been showing some interesting pace, and it would be kind of interesting to compare them to the pro field in the LMP class. That's something everyone's going to be talking about as the season progresses anyway, is how do the two classes compare to each other across the races, which is very interesting.
That it is, especially given that at the end of the season there is going to be some juggling, probably just going to be some juggling back and forth between the classes. So this is going to be something that we're going to be keeping an eye on for the duration of the season. Now Stevie, the defending champion, taking pole position in front of Vert CJ. Stevie did a 1:53.0 for his qualifying time. Vert CJ with a 1:53.3. Joe of the Fire coming in with 1:53.5, and then Armored Core in 4th place. He managed to pull off a 1:54.1, but managing to do so around 600ths of a second faster than I did, so really close there for P4 and 5, with the Traels coming in. As I remember, it was a 1:54.4, and Wake CU and Sparks were up around the 1:55, but still a very close GT field, and a large GT field, larger than we've seen at the other races so far for the pros.
Yeah, definitely a nice field, and a pretty close level of skill I think you see between these guys. It's I think it's going to provide some pretty interesting close racing for this second round of the race too, as we have the LMP guys just approaching the hill that's going to lead them to the beginning of the...
At this point, anybody who's been putting themselves into a saving fuel map for the out lap or the warm-up lap, they're gonna be smashing it down to 1 now. They are gonna be having the heart rates going up, tension is going up, and soon it will be Nilsson to decide when...
allowed to and he floors it immediately after crossing the pit wall. Gets a very, very nice start.
And
they leave off Apple for dead down the straight here.
I don't know what happened to that Audi, but it really looked like he forgot to change his gears or something. That might actually have been what happened, but I've heard rumors about Audi switching from, or the Rotterdam performance Audi of Apple, making the transition from an automatic gearbox to a sequential one that might have been causing him trouble there.
Costing him quite dearly here in the beginning. He's already got now the masters of the race like airplanes just pulling ahead.
And let's go see the start for the GT field as Stevie leads him down the straight. Coming into turn 1. Oh, and CJ goes wide into the grass. He manages to keep it on. And what's going on there? A little bit of... CJ goes wide and there's contact between him and Armored Core. A little tap to the inside and CJ goes wide. Oh, and he is damaged. Terrible start for CJ. Once more. Not the first time this season either. Some F's in chat for CJ. What a horrible start. As we're following Wake, CU, trying to put on some pressure, trying to gain from being in the lower parts of the field. Sparks360 also got somewhat cleanly away. Myself, DirtenDK, trying to follow Armored Core, who has damage at this point, following the incident with CJ through the first couple of turns.
Yeah, you can already see the unsettled nature of the Beetle having had that damage. He's struggling. He pulls out to the side here, letting you guys through. It's a close battle between you and Sparks coming down towards the roller coaster right hand turn here. So you see I'm diving on the inside. I just get past Sparks. He's having to hold off and I'm in your slipstream now. This has become a three-way battle. The damaged car of Armored Core still sort of keeping up. He's doing a great job of maintaining the pace in spite of whatever happened to his car.
It looks like you're gonna pull a move here on the inside and does so with great persistence there. Not giving me any space to defend, and I was getting a little bit...
looking to the inside, but I cut him off and he wisely holds off just a bit.
That was efficient by Sparks360, also taking advantage of
we see a big gap. Stevie has just flown away right from the beginning here. No one seems able to match his pace. Closest in second is Joe of the Fire. Interestingly, he's on the medium tires, some of the harder tires we see in the GT3 field at this race. Most of the other guys are running either softs or super softs. So I'm now fighting to make up the gap up to Joe. I know I'm on a faster tire. I know I should be able to make up this pace, close this gap up to him, and perhaps make a move and get past.
And these opening laps are proving to be very hectic indeed. Still really close racing between Sparks360, myself, and Wake CU. With Traels just beginning to pull slightly away and Armored Core behind, with CJ also trying to keep up, but with damage and staying out instead of pitting in immediately. Armored Core having gotten rid of his damage, just trying to settle into a rhythm at this point. We're following CJ, Wake CU, and the PlayStation Mercedes. Oh, there's another problem for CJ, looking really twitchy indeed.
It's an interesting decision for him to
what's
stay
going
out
on?
and keep fighting against that battle, against that damage. Sorry.
No problem. It just looked like a move was going down. Up in front, Sparks.
Moves are going down just about at every corner as Wake CU just puts it on the sand. He doesn't seem to lose too much time from it though.
It is some really close racing here. Some of the closest racing we've seen this season so far. Not that it's an old season
and
yet.
In the front, I've actually caught Joe of the Fire and I make a pass in exactly the same corner as I did on you.
Proving to be a strong corner here, early race for you, and a really strong pace you're showing at this point. Also, Joe of the Fire on the medium tires, perhaps making a wise decision not to put up too much of a fight at this point. And as Sparks go wide, just opening the door to the left, making it an easy pass. Wake CU probably thinking about making a move also, but he thinks twice about that coming into turn 1. It's a really difficult place to overtake also because the twisty nature of the circuit. There really only is one fast line through there, and if you're not on that fast line, well, you're going to be going slower than anyone who is on the fast line. Wake CU into turn 3. CJ coming through. Still really close here.
You see the Beatles. The Beatles have suffered quite heavily here right from the beginning, having that unfortunate collision in the early corners of this race.
Really bad luck because he just
CJ
CJ just manages to save that one. Great car control. A big moment getting on the power on the curb, and the back of the car just getting really twitchy there. But what bad luck for the Vert Beatles, both of them, and CJ, and especially considering that it was a tap from Sparks that unsettled my car, which in turn just veered into his car, sending him.
He was looking down the inside, late braking,
bold,
perfect
very
move.
good move. Just as you say that, he suffers the curse and goes into the sand.
Oh, the curse
on
of
the
the
exit.
commentator meets us again.
Oh my. Wake CU was looking to make the move here. He does seem to have the pace on Sparks 360, quickly looking to close that gap again. Sparks already here on lap 3 of the race with notable front tire wear, looking a bit better for me in the Mazda. Joe of the Fire now handing company by teammate myself.
Joe of the Fire impressively keeping up with me as well, as I've tried to just build a gap big enough that he doesn't have any slipstream advantage on me.
But this is something
I'm
we've
just
said.
not quite able to do it. He's able to keep up to the point where I feel like I have to really push to get that gap. And that means I make small mistakes, and that means he just makes it right back up again.
That's true, and he's also shown this on numerous occasions that he has been able to match the race pace that other drivers have been able to put in on softer tires, on a harder compound, and not lose big amounts of time, and just somehow manage to do his own pace in the chaos of the field, not really get too affected by battling with drivers, seemingly just pretty much letting people go through just to keep his own pace steady, because he knows that the strategy is going to be working at his best like that. And he's really impressive when he does this, Joe of the Fire. Having said that, I think there is the limitations to how much grip the medium tires can give him, because you are pulling out a gap right now. I'm right up the bumper of my teammate. Is it going to be time for a move? I think it is. And that is perfect team orders executed right there.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that looked like a very nicely coordinated piece of work. It definitely didn't look like any hardcore sort of racing maneuver, but that is what you should do when you know that your teammate is on a different strategy and is gonna have different pit windows than you. It's gonna be interesting to see how much time you're able to pick back up on me. I realized this pretty quickly that you were coming ahead and you seemed to be on faster tires, or maybe just faster, I wasn't actually sure. And that did stress me out a bit. In front though, we have quite a considerable margin. You get to see it right there. Stevie has just continued on setting at a pace no one's really able to match, and maintaining his super soft tires to a level that pretty much no one else is able to either.
This is the Stevie we saw last year. This is the Stevie we did not see at Monza, for whatever reasons that might have been. But the monster, in a good way, I mean this of course, as we see even Stevie just get hit by a slight hint of the curse. But he is a machine, he is a fantastic driver, and he is back doing what we saw him do, well, most of the season, last season, as he came through thundering to a championship victory.
In the LMP battle, we have what we see often in the LMP field, even when it's bigger than this, that the gaps, they tend to stabilize pretty quickly, and then it's more a matter of how do you manage your pit stops, how do you manage the strategy you're on. The development is a bit slower, but it doesn't mean that there isn't development. At the moment, it looks a bit static. Nilsson has built up quite a bit of a gap on Ninja.
And Ninja in turn has also built up, well, it's not a huge gap, but the gap is there down to off Apple, so not a whole lot of direct car-to-car battling action going on in the LMP class right now. We'll be sure to be checking on him during the race here. Ninja Karma, the French driver, having enjoyed. But actually, having enjoyed an okay.
Comes up to
Coming up to some kind
quite a big group of GT3 drivers here. He's got to be wondering, how the hell am I going to get through this?
Yeah, and he does.
He's looking right, he's looking left. He gets past one, but then there's a brace of riders.
The brace of drivers just.
Could you guys get out of the way, please? And we finally do, and he gets past.
And here
that'll have cost him quite some time. You see, he puts in a 147 compared to the 144 of last lap.
And perhaps a move coming in on you down in turn 1 there. I think you're just able to defend it with. Oh, that's literally being all over the place.
You've made up the gap to me very quickly here, and that's got me worried, and I'm having to do some very, very defensive driving here. You're on the inside, but I maintain a strong exit, and I pull alongside as we get outside.
Just get a slight bit of oversteer there, not able to capitalize on that better line through there on the inside, coming down towards here. Oh, as you go wide! Oh no, Traels, what have you done? You spin!
Yeah, rip my race.
Can we see some F's in chat for Traels666?
That was not how that was supposed to go. I got a bit overwhelmed with team radio, regular battling with 2 other masters, LMP cars passing me, and I just had a bit of an overload of information, to be honest, and I just didn't brake for that corner enough.
Such a shame, and do know that we're noting and reading with you what you're reading in chat. So if you have any questions or if you have any suggestions live or anything you'd like us to point out or anything, do not hold back. Please give us a hint, a point, whatever, as we're looking at Joe of the Fire Championship leader right now in the Pro GT class.
And he's just picked up a different pace car here to follow. I crash and he immediately just hooks onto the back of you and maintains the pace you're doing on the super soft tires.
Yeah, I think at this moment there is beginning to be a pace difference that is swinging more towards the favor of the medium tires at this point, because
those super softs are looking pretty tired by now.
I wasn't really remembering to be soft on my tires through that very hectic first stint, which really resulted in me having some bad wear, and I really suffered.
I pit to just get rid of those horrible old tires, and it's a bit too early to do that, to be honest. I'm gonna need to stretch my next few stints. We'll see, tune in to see how that works out.
Sparks also haven't been in yet, coming out here. Be hoping to find a pace a little bit quicker than what he's had so far in the BMW Z4 of Nukeshot Motorsports. And Vert CJ is moving up through the field, having done his early pit stop to sort out the damage. Now, having had some really good consistent laps on the medium tires, he is doing his utmost to make amends for the bad luck he suffered during the start.
And setting some very respectable lap times on those medium tires while doing so. 155s, that's a very nice pace on a set of medium tires.
Exactly my point.
My knowledge of the Beetle and the Group 3 class on this track.
It certainly is. It certainly is.
Up front we have Wake CU on some completely dead super softs that are basically just whatever rubbers underneath the tread by now. As you can see, he's just drifting towards the outside of the corners.
Just struggling with that understeer.
I expect him to pit once he gets around to it now.
It would also be the time. The window is open now for the 3 stoppers, which would be the strategy for the drivers who are racing, or at least if the drivers who are starting on the super soft would be using it for the entire race. Now we see Stevie, the leader, in the pits. He was on the super soft. I'm in the pits. As we see Wake also in the pits. So yeah, this is definitely the window for the super soft for the 3 stoppers.
And I in a way attempted an accidental undercut by just deciding that my tires were done and that I didn't want to attempt an extra lap on it. That paid off in some small amount, and I'm now very close to Sparks. I saw you just up ahead, and just in this moment I was like, okay, maybe the race isn't completely over.
But of course, bearing in mind that at some point you'd have to do a stint that were not even, you'd have to do 2 8-lap stints now, having done 1 6-lap stint on the super softs, which from my knowledge would be a little bit of a challenge on those tires. So interesting to see how that would go, but of course it is easier to save the tires later in the race when the rhythm has settled in and everything. Now as we see me catching CJ on the harder tires, on the slower tires, on completely fresh super softs. This Mazda does not get much quicker than it is at this moment with half a tank of fuel. Let's see if CJ will be able to do anything about it. Basically, the Mazda did turn out to be really fast for this weekend. The Mazda La Vista team having found the setup for their car really working well. As we're following CJ here, looking back. CJ, a strong driver. And as you can see him, he is struggling with that Beetle though. A lot of understeer right there. And he's going a little bit off limits there perhaps in order to defend.
Yeah, and that's one of the challenges when once you're in this situation, you know there's not much to do. You're just pushing so hard and you need not to make any mistakes, and you tend to err on the side of caution, and that sometimes leads to a bit of bending of the rules. As we see, he brakes, dives deeply, tries to defend that way, sticks to the inside here, very nicely done. You're looking to the outside, you fake it to the inside, very nice move, you're now on the inside, can you push it through? The Mazda's good on the brakes.
Oh, CJ just plows right through there.
Pushes you out. That was a bit of a Verstappen move.
That was a bit of a Verstappen, not the cleanest of driving CJ, and he had been complaining, which you could understand after that start, and he might just have had pure frustration there. Contact again, and not really what we wanted to see there from CJ, but anyways, giving up the position in the end because, well, there was no other way against that Mazda in that situation on those tires. Maybe he should have been a little bit more gentlemanly about that in that situation, but all in all things taken into consideration, you would understand if he's not completely happy with his race so far, so it's hard to yeah. And with that, I've moved up into P3 of the GT class. Joe of the Fire on his medium tires, really looking like they are a pit stop worthy by now, has moved up into second position. And Stevie is just cruising along. And I say cruising along, he's just motoring along in Aston Martin. Because he
setting
is
a pace that no one really seems to be able to match. He's made his pit stop and still comes out securely ahead in the lead and can just focus on getting back to that pace. Let's see, he sets at 53.666.
the lap after.
Not only does he set one of the fastest laps of the race, he even makes a small reference to me, which I'm very happy with. This is the closest I'll ever be to the lead of this. Sweet.
That is a damn fast lap.
Yeah. Very impressive stuff. No wonder we're not really able to do much about it at the moment. You see you make your way through T1, pushing up to T2 here. Well, no, T2, the T2 and 3, I guess.
T2 and 3 it is. It is a little bit confusing here.
Order of corners.
And that turn 5, that is just so challenging to get right. Because if you carry too much speed, the car will just veer off to the left, off into the grass, and on that grass there is just no saving it.
There's not much you can do once you get across that limit. There's just so little grip and you're already on the downslope, and yeah,
exactly.
Very reduced grip.
The car
at
just
that point.
The car just goes.
Be a bit cautious, but at the same time it's probably one of the most important acceleration zones on the track, so
it is
highly strung through there usually.
Definitely.
Joe the Fire just putting on that perfect line. He always makes those cars look like they're on tracks. Not much drama, not much to see, to be honest. Just doing what needs to be done.
Well, he has a bit of the same when you see him drive, when you see him lap after lap after lap doing pretty much exactly the same thing and doing something that is pretty damn fast. You get an impression that he's under the same spell as Stevie when he's driving, to some degree. Not that they're completely alike as drivers, they are, apart from the fact that they're both British and both a little bit alien. Maybe not from this planet completely, but they are of course two different drivers, and different in each their respect, but both very, very, very consistent, both very, very, very fast, and by the looks of things so far, they are the two drivers.
Sparks has had a major incident. He has heavy engine damage and big damage to the front of his car. He's dropped back to the rear of the GT3 field now and is just trying to make his way to the pit stops.
He has had a huge...
What a shame for Sparks 360.
And it has not only been... Can I just say that it has not only been one problem, because he has had a slow lap going into the pits. His 9th lap going around was a 2-minute 41, so he already lost a bucket load of time there. Now he has a problem again. Terrible luck for Sparks 360, not what he would have been hoping for coming into this race. Having to do a pit stop again now with faster traffic coming up. This is a horrible situation to be in.
Off Apple coming up on him here, and he's on the grass just trying to control the car. Apple makes a safe pass on the outside that looked cautious.
And as we see, Sparks also keeping a low speed, trying to not to take any chances with the traffic coming up. A very mature decision as he comes into the pit to have his mechanics look at that damage. Armored Core, we haven't seen a lot of him throughout this race, having suffered the same bad luck basically as CJ. He has his indicators on for some reason, but he doesn't seem to have any damage, and he seems to have, however, he does seem to have, well, I don't know if we have any, no, that is certainly not, he must have had some kind of problem.
Has on, has he paused the game?
I think he has.
I think he has, that's
I think he has. That is auto drive.
A first timer retires from the second round.
Armored Core retires. Oh my, our first retiree of the race. A shame to see, but such is the ways of motorsports. Sometimes the machinery just won't hold.
As we see now, Joe coming up very fast to me. I've already destroyed those supers from before.
But you are also...
Little inside story, I found out in the last stint that I was running the wrong brake bias for the entire race. That's why I'm shredding my front tires, and I'm wondering why. So this is when you see I'm on the softest compound, but by now the drop-off is so big that Joe of the Fire is almost too patient. The pace difference is so big that he could basically pass me anywhere. For the moment he's holding off. I'm trying to be a bit defensive but not rude about it, because of course I don't want him to just fly past. I want to kind of slow him down, but I don't want to be a dick about it.
Of course not.
Basically.
Also very mature driving from you in that situation, not doing any extensive battling, to put it like that, Joe. Doing battling, but within
just making it a bit harder.
Making it a bit harder, as you should, because you're of course obliged to slow him down as much as you can.
For a second there, I completely mislead myself, and I think, should I try to pass him here? Obviously that doesn't work out.
And that ends up
get close to him. The Aston is so fast down the straights if you get a good exit that I'm actually able to pull into the slipstream.
Yeah, and once you get in
alongside, check this out, I'm almost alongside by the braking. See, and then the soft tires lose grip, and I go wide, and by the end of the corner he has the same gap he had at the beginning. See him across the curves.
One thing that we haven't mentioned is that Joe of the Fire has the weight ballast from the first race, his 3%. CJ had who was second in the... I don't actually remember now, because in that race I wasn't racing because I had my foot injury, which means I was broadcasting the race live, which means I really should remember who came in second there.
You never really do remember much from these.
I know that Stevie came in third. He has 1% weight balanced added to his car. Maybe somebody in chat can tell us who was second for the Pro GTs at Monza.
Come on, Chad, help us out here.
Wake, see you, thank us. It is Joe himself. Thank you, Joe. Wake, see you, of course, with 2%, and that might also explain why he is really struggling with his tires.
While we were discussing that, we saw Nielsen make a pit, come out and stay ahead of Ninja Car. Ninja Car was running with damage. He's had some incident.
I can explain also why Ninja Man, Ninja Man is the famous.
We're looking forward to the day that you guys fuse together as
to
one.
become Ninja Man, the famous dancehall reggae singer Ninja Man. So maybe we should get to see the data right now of the race.
Oh.
Yep. That is beautiful. Thank you to our producers. Now, no, I was gonna say that I could explain why Nilse had been in the pits there, because we had a little bit of an incident with the traffic. I was trying to signal to what side. I was going with my indicator, and I think Nilse kind of understood it as to what side I wanted him to go. But it wasn't really that bad.
That's a good point. I think that happened more than once in the race. I think I actually might have just missed it happen. No, because that's when Ninja pits too.
And we should say that the rules...
We should try to... Oh, it's stipulated in the rules what flashing means.
I think that the stewards at some point had a debate about it, and they probably also, I think, pretty much agreed that it should be used as you would in real life traffic, as per se that you use your indicators to signal what side you are moving your own car to.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Using this broadcast mainly to broadcast our own ignorance at the moment, which I'm not too sure about. But let's see how this pans out.
Definitely. We'll have a good collection of definites coming up at some point.
Oh, definitely.
It's a catchphrase of ours. As you see, DirtenDK myself in P2, also on quite worn tires.
Those absolutely mint, fresh. Super tires.
Those
freshest, super softs you've ever seen. Starting to struggle, starting to just having to be a bit more cautious. You see again the slight drift to the side.
Yeah.
Heavy braking and turning for these corners is now a bit more arduous. You can hear the squeal from the tires as they struggle to maintain any sort of grip.
I also missed the apex there.
Stevia, he pits in now.
Yeah. And this is, the window is open once more for the three stoppers, and this is the second pit round for them, the super softers, if you will. And this time it is not only tires but also fuel.
On the same lap as Stevie, so we have both of you guys in at the same moment here. Stevie is quickly out though.
We are on...
Joe on the one stop, blast past you, and that's a quick
one or two stop. I think it's a two-stop strategy on the mediums.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't think any of that it could be, but it's just to say that the hard tires on this circuit really lose a lot of speed through a lot of the corners.
And also
the need for mechanical grip. And what?
And they also suck.
Yeah, they suck. They really suck. The hot tires suck.
Hot tires suck.
Stevie, as we have been mentioning before during this broadcast, he is back at his best as we know him from last season. And sorry if I repeat myself on that one, but it's just impressive to see.
No, but it's very nice to see, and as his teammate I can divulge a little bit of... It was definitely a strong desire for him to get back on form and show that he's here to be a top contender after what was a bit of a shambolic Monza where he didn't have much preparation and maybe was a bit complacent, that's me guessing, but he says that he didn't have much preparation, and he's definitely stepped his game up for this, and he's going to be stepping his game up for the next duration. I think we can be sure of that.
We will definitely be expecting much from Stevie fourth in the season, as we are from, I'd say, a couple of the drivers, maybe a bit more than others, but definitely the top three in the qualifying of the GTs today, having shown that they just have that little bit more when it comes to pure out pace, while CJ just having been struck by bad luck time and time again, just not really being able to.
I'm impressed by his recovery. I've got to say he's done some steady racing and he's kept to a strategy as much as possible. And as you can see, I know he's a pit stop behind at this point, but he's still close enough to see you. He's not out of it by any. As I say, CU, Wake CU pits in on absolutely dead super softs. These are the deadest tires we'll see.
Those tires are.
I'm impressed, Wake. I wouldn't have gone that extra lap, but it definitely helps your strategy. Good job, mate.
Yeah, that is a strong driving to stay out. That is really, really determined stuff.
Interesting to see that you're now coming out on the super fresh, super softs, and Joe is on the worn mediums. Are we gonna see another team orders change of position between the master team at some point here?
Well,
this is a bit. You could argue that this might be a slight flaw in the strategy, that somehow it should be possible to make less changes of position. I don't know. I'm talking out of my ass here, but I just feel like you guys having to pass each other 4 times is less than optimal.
Well, we'll see what is going to happen later at the race and how much debacle it's going to cause. You can say that there is a point that Joe of the Fire is the first driver of the Master Modista team. He is the driver with the title challenge for the drivers, so it would also be natural for the team to want to place him in front, at least for the final lap. And that doesn't necessarily mean that he has to be in front all the way through. Off Apple in P3 of the LMP class, the French monster Ninja Karma in P2, having recovered from his damage and looking good now, setting lap times that are pretty close to what he pulled off in qualifying. That also goes for Nilseman, his strongest lap at this point being a 1:39.6. Coming around towards the final turn, looking to pass Wake CU in the GT car, yet another piece of traffic. And at times it makes for some hair racing situations when you're in the GT car. I think we should ask Wybear about that.
Yeah.
Just remember him on the last lap of race 1 being passed on both sides.
Yeah, being forced to thread that middle line must be so scary. I'm happy that I've always had relatively simple passes for the most part. I had a small incident. I think it might still be coming up with Ninja. We'll try and see if we can catch that. But other than that, I think the LMP cars are doing a very, very good job. I especially want to applaud the AM cars for doing such a good job, letting us do clean racing in our class, and for the most part, us returning the favor.
For the most part, I think for a whole, you could say that, or for the entirety of the field, both driver splits so far is beginning to get used to the whole multi-class racing situation with the traffic and everything. I think we're seeing fewer and fewer incidents, and the incidents that we are seeing are becoming more and more hold-ups and less terminal damage or stuff like that. And that's really good to see.
That was what I was going to say, if you'd even call the hold-ups incidents, because what we're seeing now is a lot smoother passes, a lot greater understanding of where to put the slower car and what opportunities the faster car has. So what we're seeing is less hold-ups, maybe not that much less in the way of actual incidents, because those are purely accidental, I assume, 99.9% of the times. What we do see now is we know what the other class is doing. Both cars are acting in a predictable manner that lets both of us try to plan a way that causes the least amount of harm to the both of us, and that's very good.
Definitely.
Definitely.
As we take a look at CJ, Joe of the Fire, he is in P3, meaning CJ of course is in P4 in the GT class. Joe being somewhat close, but I think he was recently passed by me, moving up into second position.
You must have had that team orders, or not team orders, I suppose.
Actually, Joe and I,
acknowledging the fact that you're on different strategies.
Joe and I did not have radio contact, and we have not had radio contact at any point during these races. So we just pretty much agreed on a strategy before the race, and we carried that out, and that worked pretty well.
Yeah, that's interesting because I know that a lot of teams are doing team radios now and are working on that. And for me, it's most of the time I think it's very helpful. It gives you information about what's going on different parts of the track. Gives you opportunities to bounce ideas of someone to maybe there's a lot of different things, not just revolving around being close to each other on the track in your cars. But there's a ton of different stuff. But at the same time, it's an extra ball to juggle in what's already quite a piece of jugglery.
Jugglery, indeed, it is to drive these cars and to speak around at the same time.
Two-stoppers make a pit stop in the same.
And as we have Joe in the chat, he just finds it easier to focus. He says, "Well, I understand, and I actually also agree to some degree. I think it can be helpful if it can be kept to somewhat minimal information, short sentences, but I have sometimes, if I'm not under pressure myself, I'm just driving around, sometimes I will just start a long sentence and start talking my ass off, because I do that. And if somebody else, if my teammate is all of a sudden in a battle somewhere, or has cars close, or is really putting on pressure just to have fast laps or whatever, it's sometimes just not usually optimal.
I agree. I think for it to work in an even sort of optimum way, anything close to it, you need to have an impressive level of discipline with regards to how you carry out those orders or short communications that you want to have. But it's also a matter of like adjusting it to each other and
it is. It is, and I think
preferences and understanding of each other, and
mostly, as you say, I think it's very individual.
Yeah,
I think it's very individual what drivers need. Some drivers need to have the ability to have support or the ability to weigh a decision or not, and other drivers just like to have that stuff out of the way. Oh, as we have some really close.
Pulls up just ahead of Stevie.
That was a hair-raising moment.
Steve is still trying to get his heart out of the bottom of his stomach after that. That must have been a hair-raising moment.
And knowing that you're
because you're already on the absolute utmost your brakes can perform. There's no way you can be like, oh, okay, I'll just brake a bit harder.
Exactly, that was exactly my point, because you cannot brake as hard in the GTS. Apple just runs a little bit wide. Takes a very alternative rallycross line.
Come out of the pits. He is just raging at the moment, just flying along. This is not the Apple we're used to seeing. Apple is usually known for being a very measured driver, very patient. He's always predictable and clever about it.
The Apple is off.
The Apple is off today.
The Apple is off today. And he has been right from the get-go when he hung on into first gear. And that created the gap that just has been growing and growing and growing.
Type of fermentation process going on in the apple at the moment. It may be the heat in Italy so late in the summer.
And combined with such a long, hot European summer.
When apples ferment, do they get drunk themselves?
Well, that is a really good question.
Now we're getting into the real philosophical part. The part we all know you've been waiting for.
Let's take a look at Joe of the Fire and how his mediums are coming along at this point. They are brand fresh, which means
came out. They're completely. They probably still have stickers on them.
Not as many stickers as the Master La Vista car.
Nothing has as many stickers as the Master La Vista car. So that's a pretty obvious statement there, Captain. Did you count them yet?
As we see, really aggressive fast line through the double right-hander at the end of the circuit, and then the double left-hander. A really tricky last left-hander here, having to cut so much of the curb to get the ideal exit.
I believe I'm having to do an extra lap here.
Yeah, with the 8 laps you have to do.
It was, yeah.
Having to go really defensively there at the inside, braking early. Joe of the fire on the outside, just a slight bit of paint rubbing coming into turn 2 with Joe on the inside. Is he able to move on through here? He is making it stick.
Not much I can do there.
Not at all.
By now is I'm looking to do possibly a 2-minute lap because the tires are so done.
Aston is looking like it is on skates.
Do about it.
Have you gone ice skating, sir? Looks like it. Otherwise, that move is really hard to pull off. If it is 2 equal cars, it really has to be a situation like this with one car and fresh tires and the others anything but.
Yeah. Joe just making that move work to perfection, and I realized very quickly that there wasn't anything I could do about it. But once you initiate the move, the sequence of corners is so tight that I couldn't even really back out of it anyway. So it was just a matter of waiting for him to execute and trusting that he would just go through pretty much impeccably, and he did. So that was
and a little bit of info. Joe says he actually did take some stickers off for the new livery, for the updated livery, for the numbers. But he also adds to mention that we wouldn't notice, and that's kind of true, because we didn't. But kudos to you, Joe, for taking it off.
That goes to show something about the design of that car, that he can remove a number of stickers and no one notices. But that being said, I don't want to shit all over the design, because I do actually appreciate that it's it's very Japanese style. I kind of like it. It's grown on me. Maybe
it's also grown on me. It's also grown on me. I kind of like. I really like it by now.
It's grown on me.
I look at it and because at the beginning I was, to say now I'm honest, Joe, I know you're listening, I was maybe a little bit skeptical, but knowing that I had been trying to put something together myself, which was just non-existent, so who were I to really be saying anything about it? And by now I just like it that when you're coming up behind somebody, they see that it's just there. Bah!
You're definitely easy to spot wherever you are on the track. You always know where you
and
guys
the attempts looks mean. It looks like it's coming for you.
As you see, I've made the stretch on the pit stops. That means I'm now back on a regular stint for this. This should be good depending on the times we do. I might even get to do only 7 laps at the end here. At least that's kind of my hope at the moment. I do bring enough fuel for whatever
coming out of the pits. Oh my, you have it off! No!
Yeah. I got the headphone wires tangled in my arm, and I was like, yep, I could just untangle this while going through T1. That's no problem. It was a problem. And I have damage. I have suspension damage as well, which did unsettle my car a bit. And I decided that I need to press on, which was probably not the strongest decision. Let's see how that works out. Or not, because I'm the producer and get to decide what you guys get to see. Who knows?
Now I think we have a message maybe from the stewards that they will be looking at the Master La Vista car and be just for checking that it still applies to the weight BOP, having stickers removed. That might have been.
That was my original thought as well. It
a performance game, and you also.
You know, in the 70s and 80s, in America, you would do a lot of crazy things like dipping the body of the car in acid to remove some material. But this is even cleverer. Just put on a bunch of LED stickers and success ballast. Kudos to you, Joe, for inventing such a clever, simple solution to a complicated problem. I'm very impressed.
As we have a look once more at the leader, Stevie just hammering along. He has been untouchable today.
Stevie with the yellow champion's laurels on his #1 car, signifying that he is in fact the GC3 champion. I do believe those are custom gold mirrors as well.
And Joe of the Fire is up into P2. And that means that at this point I had a little dip into the sand and Joe just came by, and this very much looks like it is Oh, that is certainly more a Force India move happening there. What was that going through the mind of myself in that situation? 8-year-old decision to try to go through. I think I was maybe thinking that Joe was trying to wave me through or something on the inside.
Well, obviously you're still on the super softs and he's on the mediums. His mediums aren't tired by any means, but you definitely would have the pace to get past him.
I certainly also did have the pace at this point of the race, but as we had also agreed before, strategically it was to be a Rubens Barrichello for me at the end of this race.
You have to wonder the decision to stay behind so early in the race. At least as far as I can think, you'd wonder that maybe you'd be able to offer some shelter from the wind pushing along the straights if you could just keep in the front.
But at this point, Steve had a commanding advantage of 15 to 20 seconds. So closing that in the space of 10 minutes on a driver who was on a fresh pair of super softs, just hammering along at a pace that at no point of the race had we really been able to match it.
Just a quiet moment to appreciate the fact that we've reached 69 comments for the first time on our channel. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for joining in the chat. It's been such a pleasure seeing you so active in there.
CJ, having made a very impressive recovery from his early incidents, is now actually pretty darn close to you guys.
And I should mention, as we watch me and Joe once more with the team action here, that it was my own decision to just stay behind and say I'm not gonna put in any kind of challenge. And to be quite frank, it also both shows on how I drive the car and also the tire wear. I was very surprised on my last stint to see how much of the tires I had left after staying behind. But that also definitely came to show something about how it is with the super soft, that it really does reward the drivers who are able to just hold back a little tiny bit at the start of the stint in order to conserve the tires, to have the pace throughout the stint and not suffer completely dead tires that'll be up to 3-4 seconds a lap slower at the end of a stint.
And I think it's also a nice testament to the tire model change that in fact now you really are rewarded for being more sensitive on your steering inputs. You really are rewarded for how far you push the car on the braking and all this. It's actually, it seems now it's much more of a game of how much can I conserve tires, whereas before it was soft tires last about 10 laps. Well, not 10 laps, but you know what I mean.
Exactly.
It was almost pretty much set, and you sure you could save a tiny bit, but it didn't really matter. By now you can really stretch your strategies to something.
There's a squirmy moment there coming out as we see CJ up the background. He's closing in and having set some quick lap times indeed. Even on those, well, they're not fresh anymore, those mediums. He is on his last stint. And should we just say at this point there are just about a little more than 8 minutes remaining. Wake CU.
One thing we didn't notice was that Wake CU noticed that I was coming up. I'd been setting some decent laps, I think. Not really.
But you have damage now.
No, yeah, but that's from the crash immediately coming out of the pits. But I'd actually been catching up to him at quite the rate. And he was a very clever guy, and he went into the pits just for some fresh tires and came out right behind me instead of slowly losing the gap on fresh tires. So at this point I'm feeling, you can see my tires, I have damage to my suspension and my aero as well. The Merc is by no means a slouch on the straights either. So I'm realizing right now that this is going to be borderline impossible for me to maintain the position.
Definitely.
And you can see him just flying up on me here.
That was exactly what I was going to see, taking the words out of my mouth. Wake CU just closing that gap corner for corner, straight for straight. You can see him edging in. Oh, as you get squirmy on the exit there. Oh, let's see what
the downforce is gone, and I noticed the wear on the tires was completely different as well due to the damage to my rear downforce.
You can really see how that Aston is just unsettled.
I'm really trying to make myself just a bit wide, a bit uncomfortable through here. Immediately show that I want to be defensive. He accepts the outside line, but he's so much faster down the straight that he's basically passed already.
Yeah, he is.
And I'm having to be a clever guy and just hold off because I'm not a douche.
Yeah, there's nothing really to do.
Trying to push again because I want to be a douche. My car's just not really fast.
Right up the bumper.
So the only thing I'm doing
if you can
is
hold the
stressing him
slipstream,
out.
you might be able to pull a move coming into the double right-hander. You've
I
seen.
have so much rear aero damage.
Yeah, you've pulled this off before as you think about it, but Wake CU goes deep on the brakes, keeps it, and makes it really impossible to get any kind of action in. You do a good job of holding on, you must say. Let's see what is going on with CJ at this moment, because he was going fast before and he's keeping on with those. Oh, as you just really see him pushing on to the limit.
He doesn't have much fuel left though.
He does certainly not have much fuel left, and
CJ possibly looking to do a quick splash and dash, maybe even just a full pit stop to get some fresh rubber as well. How is that going to affect his considerable gap to us?
well, I think he is going to be able to go in, throw on some super softs,
and come out with no problems.
Yeah. And should he come out behind you, he is a driver known to be able to make an overtake stick on some soft tires on a single lap or two.
At this point, even though I have less wear on my tires because of the downforce loss I had at the back, the car, even though it doesn't show it, it feels like it had a lot of wear. I'm already slipping and sliding at this point, which was what you saw when I was trying to just get a bit further into the race before Wade could make some passes, and I just gave up the last second and a half of an advantage I had on him.
Yeah, it was quite obvious that your car was
very good job. He's setting the fastest laps he's set so far. Obviously picking up a bit of impetus after passing me. Hard on the brakes into the carousel as I decided to call it today.
Oh, as he has a moment
Just
coming out of the
a
carousel
bit too
there.
eager on the gas pedal, getting out across the hill.
But must say that
those. We see CJ as we expected into the pits.
Yeah.
For a quick pit stop.
and
Just
this,
the last bit of fuel, possibly some super soft tires.
as you see him shaking his head in the car right there, knowing that that fuel probably should have been added.
Furious with his race engineer, and also frustrated with the fact that he is his own race engineer.
Indeed.
But as we expected, he's able to make that pit stop, still with a relatively comfortable margin.
And that is a really comfortable gap to wait.
It'll take a proper accident for this margin to disappear.
Yeah, it certainly will. Sparks, it's been a race to forget for Sparks 360. While Nilseman has had, well, he hasn't had smooth sailing all the way through as he takes a very, very aggressive line.
Did a very impressive lap on the 27th lap, having set the fastest lap of the entire race at that point. It's always nice to see guys setting top level lap times late into the race, especially when they've been racing on their own for a while. It can be kind of hard to break the steady rhythm you try to build and set some actual real scorches.
Also because, at least for my own part, most of the time you don't really want to take any risks. You don't want to push. You don't want to.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that 105% qualifying lap at the end of a race. As we see off Apple into the pits, that is a very late stop also for him.
Just slamming on. I think that what we might be seeing is slamming on super softs and looking to set a lap record.
Perhaps going for the fastest lap.
He did seem.
Now he gets blue flagged, and he should be a bit faster to move out of the way of Nilseman, because blue flag really means for him to move out of the way. He hasn't done so yet. As he gets a little wide on the exit, should allow Nilseman through by now. The leader of the race. But he seems determined not to be lapped.
Yeah, what we're seeing here definitely is the struggle not to get lapped by the leader. And he's doing a good job of that on the fresher tires compared to Nilseman. Wait, no, Nilseman's tires is virtually untouched.
Yeah, looks Nilseman also had a late pit stop, a late splash and dash.
Nilseman
And at this point,
she's able to get on the brakes so late in that last lap.
Abel lets him.
And it looks almost easy when he does it.
And now he's slowly taking off once more. Stevie, well, it is the same old story. Every time we see him, he's just on the lines, on point, doing quick lap times. At least considering what the point of his stint he's on. I mean, even when you see him at the end of a stint on Supersoft, where other drivers are well into the 58s,
does not seem to get anywhere near the same amount of struggles on the worn tires as the rest of us.
As we see Joe of the Fire with really having to stretch his fuel. Also here CJ having to pit. And Joe of the Fire, well, this is the last lap they're coming on to, having also been lapping Sparks, the two master drivers
Sparks
here.
looking to consider unlapping himself.
That
here.
is cheeky indeed. And he is gonna unlap himself. And he is gonna outbrake himself while trying to unlap himself.
Gives you a slight scare, doesn't get too much in the way at all.
He also gets a little signal with the turn signals there, saying please don't do that. At the last lap, that was a little bit silly. And CJ, well, we must say that CJ did a very good job salvaging P4 in the GT race after that start.
Yeah.
And also having had, well, issues maybe is a bit much to say, but having had...
I was very happy to get in, to get the race over with quickly. That was definitely a race to forget for me. We're going to start seeing the runners coming in across the line here.
And that means that we're gonna see Nilsemann, and we're gonna pronounce it for once correctly in German. Nilsemann 2002 is winning the race. We see Off Apple cross the finish line just one lap down in P3. Ninja Karma is gonna be taking P2, but we have Stevie crossing the line to win the GT race also in absolutely dominant fashion. I think the two Masters and Splurge are also coming up towards the line. With Joe of the Fire, to see that is absolutely on the last drop of fuel coming through there.
Yeah, very, very closely measured from him. As we see, Sparks must have been thinking about trying another move, but you get a strong exit. There's not much he can do there. You guys pass very closely coordinated, looking very, very very.
And there is CJ coming in already now, having picked up a lot of time on that last stint, having done a really fast lap, also a couple of 53s in there. He threw on those super softs and just went for it. And the race shouldn't have been much longer before it would really have paid off for him.
No.
Now, wait, see you.
Interesting to see.
He's gonna take P5, and that concludes the race with all the drivers coming onto the finish line.
Yeah, that's about it from us.
That's about it from Maggiore this time. So next time it will be the Nürburgring.
Finally leaving Italy.
It
sounds a bit spoiled, but we've been there for almost a month now. It's going to be very interesting to say Guten Tag
instead of Buongiorno.
Yeah. Cultural.
Now, a really interesting race we've had. This one was an absolute banger, especially for the first 15 minutes or so of the race. There was just action followed by action followed by action. And for a long time it was really close. It was actually not really before, well, the first pit stop round for the three stoppers that the field did begin to spread. I mean, of course, we had Stevie pulling away instantly.
Yeah, got a clean start, set the fastest first lap, fastest second lap, fastest third lap in the GT3 field, and he was gone. Outside of that, there was a lot of position changes. There was a lot of passing, a lot of chaos. Few crashes here and there. stuff was going on for a long time, and after the pit stops, we saw a lot of shuffling when the strategies came towards the end, and you saw slower, softer tires, or
Exactly.
fresher, harder tires, fresher, softer tires.
This was
so
much
many
more pronounced.
Strategic differences more than just struggling to maintain. Yeah, it was very interesting.
It was much more pronounced than it was at Monza, and we mentioned really quickly the changes that has happened to the game physics with the new tire model, and we're really glad that PD brought this along.
Yeah.
Great work.
Definitely elevated the game, especially when trying to do more serious lobbies where you actually consider your strategy, do a lot of practice.
Definitely, and you should also think that it actually has...
lobbies like this can't be compared to what you see in most daily races or stuff like this.
It's something else.
It gets very interesting once you do longer races as well. You really see the impact that it has, and it's really elevated the game to a level it wasn't at before. We're very pleased to see that. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you, PD. And thank you to all you wonderful people who has been joining us in the chat. You've been so active all the way through. It's been a wonderful thing to see. It's
super
been
cool
really
to see a real interaction and actual people enjoying what we do. It really, it's a real kick.
Yeah, it was a real kick. It definitely was. And big congratulations to our two winners today, to Nilseman and to Stevie. Flawless racing from both of you, really strong work, and we'll be looking forward until next weekend on the Nürburgring, where we in the Pro Field will be in the LMPs and the AMs will be back in the GT3s.
Yeah.
And
it'll be interesting to see. It's a different track again. We haven't had the same type of track in the first three we've had. The next one is more balanced. This one was quite handling based. The last one was quite top speed based. Now we're gonna see a good mix, and it's gonna be possibly a bit more up to the driver. I don't know. This was a tricky course, but it's hard to be like really fast at Nürburgring.
Definitely it is. It's such a difficult track. It's such a technical one. You have to be really good at throwing the car over curbs. You have to be really good at just some of that really on the edge stuff.
Another good track for passing as well. Another good track for drama. Another good track for close racing.
Yeah, we are looking forward for the Nürburgring.
To it, and we hope you guys are too.
And just to mention real quick that for the channel, we are racing in the
TSR M3 WTC.
Thank you, Traels.
Yeah.
And we're racing on Wednesday, but unfortunately life sometimes prohibits us from doing anything about these broadcasts until the weekend. Yeah. So hopefully on Saturday, maybe not on Saturday, but hopefully on Saturday, we'll be able to bring you those two races once more as we did last weekend, because that was really
we hope you guys check it out. You can check out the first race. That was hilarious. It was a transmitted race that we actually do well in, which doesn't happen a lot. We don't know if that's like curse of the commentator, if it also hits the commentators, because obviously then we're kind of screwed.
But it was like this before we were commentating.
Spoiler alert, we do well in this, and we have a lot of fun, and it's a very nice different. Quite a bit of a long way away from what we normally do. Yeah. The types of races we normally do. But there's a lot of drama. It's very fun.
Indeed.
A bit more relaxed, perhaps.
Yeah. A bit more time to speak on every straight.
Yeah, exactly. Could be cool if you wanted to check that out as well. We hope you enjoy that. We hope you've enjoyed tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure transmitting this for you.
Indeed, it has. And,
so until next time. This was Half the Race Gone.
Yeah.
I'm Traels666.
And I'm DirtenDK.
Take care.
Bye bye.